Okay, now that we have some key features under our belt, let's talk about some of the things that you're going to use in order to make your picture magazine ready. So we've talked about selection up here. We're going to move down to editing tools here. All right, and the first set that we're going to talk about is the difference between clone stamp and the healing brush tools. Okay, there are actually quite a few healing brush tools, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's start with clone stamp. Clone stamp does what it does really well, and you're going to see in a second what its limitations might be. Clone stamp picks things up and puts them down. So if I wanted to pick up my eye and make another one appear on my forehead, I could do that. Now, if I don't do anything else, if I just click, Photoshop is going to yell. People like to just click right off of this without reading, and I would say for a second, just stop and read and see what Photoshop is talking to you about. So it is saying to me that it can't use the clone stamp because the area to clone is another word for copy, hasn't been defined. And then it gives you the solution. It says Alt-click to define a source point. So what it's saying to you is it would love to make a copy, but you need to tell it what to make a copy of. So I'm going to hold the Alt button, which is going to change my tool into a little target. And then I'm going to click once, let go of Alt, and now move. And now we can see my eyeball has gone on a trip. Okay. Now I do want you to notice for a second, if I come up here and look at my hardness, I am set all the way at 0. If I move this to 100 and do the same thing, Alt to pick up the eye, and then paste to put it down, notice that now I have this very crisp edge happening here. So that blending that happened a second ago was because the tool was fuzzy, not because the clone tool was fuzzy. So this is actually a good moment to talk about our history palette. History tells me all of the things that have happened in the recent history. It's not forever. It's really only the last 15 or 20 or so. And it's these little sets of boxes with an arrow. Again, all of those are shown up here in the window palette. So I could actually step backwards before I ever put an eyeball, or with the blurry one, or now with the new harsh one. Okay? One of the things about clone stamp, so I'm going to actually go backwards, and we will go ahead and have hardness. There we go. Is that it's going to be whatever it's going to be, no matter where it goes. So clone stamp, pick up, put down. If I put it here or up here, it's going to be exactly the same no matter where it goes. Okay, so let's remember that because we're about to talk about healing brush. So under, you might see spot healing on top. Okay, I want the one that just says healing brush for right now because it is most similar to clone, and I want you to see the difference. Right now my brush is teeny, so I'm going to go ahead and make a bigger brush just like I had a second ago. And I'm going to double check my hardness and make sure, just so that we are seeing the same comparison, that I'm at 100%. So I'm going to Alt, again, just make sure we're getting a new one. And I'm going to place it there by clicking. And I'm going to place it here by clicking. I'm going to go ahead and do one down here on my shirt. And one here between the blue and my neck. So I want you to notice, so let's see what's happening here. So this is all healing brush. Healing, 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 healing. Those two were clone. Okay. Even if I take a clone and do that with a fuzzy brush, it still does not look like what's happening here. I still have a actual eye-colored eye in the center, just as a blurry edged. Instead, the healing brush is actually kind of changing the colors to mesh to get along with where it's going. So, I feel like it's like, being at a party. You don't want to stand out. You just want to blend in with whoever is there. Okay, and that is what healing brush does, is try to blend and accommodate. And so for that reason, healing brush is almost always the thing that you'll end up doing on this particular assignment. So we're going to go backwards. We'll get rid of all of my extra eyeballs. And we're going to talk about a couple of other things that are similar to healing brush. Okay, so I have managed to get old. I have some freckles. I have some sunspots. So here under regular healing brush, spot healing brush is pretty much what it sounds like. It's a brush that you can change size with my bracket key or up there, just like anything else. And it does not require the Alt click. So if I just click on a spot, Illustrator will just make it go away. Spot healing brush is a fantastic tool for any blemishes or freckles, any kind of things like that that are just a specific spot. Sometimes spot healing brush will do weird things, in which case you're going to want to undo and then go back to regular healing brush to pick up and put down. As a general rule of thumb, the closer that you are from the source to the destination, the better. So if I wanted to get rid of that little shadow right there, I don't want to grab something from over here to put it down. That's not the right color. I want to be as close as possible from where I'm starting to where I am going. Okay? So spot healing brush will be great. You'll use that a whole bunch for any kind of blemish. Let's also talk about patch tool, which is under here. Patch tool kind of behaves like the lasso. You're going to draw a selection, and then you can either copy the source or copy the destination. And so right now it's going to go copy a new place. So if I move this again close and then let go, I'm going to, oops, sorry. Let's try that again. And then I'm going to deselect. So Control D. Okay. So here is before that, and here is after. See how that's smoothing out those wrinkles that are right there? Okay, my smile lines. So this is a nice tool for larger areas. It is behaving just like the healing brush in that it's nice and soft, and it's going to interact with wherever you're sending things. Okay. So patch tool is a really nice tool for larger things, or perhaps like a wrinkle, you know, if you have wrinkles on your forehead, or perhaps on the neck. Okay. So the last thing that we're going to talk about in this video is an airbrushing technique. Okay. So we've discussed layers, and we talked about how sometimes you're going to want to have two different layers, and you're going to do one thing to one and not to another. Today I want to talk about what happens if you just make a blank layer. Okay. So I've clicked the new layer button down here. That's given me a blank layer, which I know because it's got a little gray and white checkerboard. That's Photoshop's symbol for blank. And I'm going to use a new selection tool we didn't actually mention yet. The Eyedropper tool selects color from your document. So if I select on my shirt, now it's blue. On my neck, it's peach. The wall, the maroon. It's going to grab wherever it is that we are selecting. Okay, so first off, let me circle back just a second. I'm going to delete this layer. If I picked, we'll do something obnoxious so we can see. If I took a paintbrush with red and drew right over my face, oh, that wasn't as exciting as it could have been. Let's bring our opacity back up. Here we go. Okay, so I have made a pink stripe right over my face. That's probably not super helpful at this point. Okay, so instead of having a pink swirl right on my face, which I can erase, by the way, if I try to erase it, I'm going to erase my face as well. So all of this is really, frankly, a bad idea. So instead, I'm going to make that new layer again. Okay, blank layer, same thing. I'm going to make a pink stripe. It's going to look pretty much the same as it did a second ago. The neat thing about this, though, is that this is its own piece of the puzzle. So I can move it. I can lower the opacity of this entire thing. I can erase parts of it. I have a lot more flexibility because this mark is up here. And so we're going to use that idea right now to talk about how we might airbrush you. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in by using my zoom tool. Don't forget to Alt works here as well to zoom back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in, and on areas that I need to smooth out the color, I'm going to pick up the color I'd like to most match. So right about here. And now take a paintbrush, and with low opacity, we want to be gentle about this, and you want your fuzziness to be quite down. Okay, so that was too big of a brush. We can't even see the edges. So we're going to get to a brush that I can see. And we're going to paint slowly. And it's going to be gentle. And we really want it to be gentle at this point. Okay, so our goal is to remove any kind of blemishes, any kind of flaws. And yet, you don't really want to be alien-looking people. Okay, so I'll stay close enough that we can see the difference. I'm going to hide that layer I just did. That was what was accomplishing right there. I was painting right on top. You do still need to see some of the original picture. Same rule that we had a second ago about how we're going to pick up and put down as close as you can be. So if I want to be here at the top of my nose, I need to pick up the color there. If I want to be here at the side of my nose, I need to pick up the color there. And I'm going to adjust my brush according to wherever I want to be. Okay, so this isn't terribly hard, but it does take a second because you want to make sure that you are being as specific per area, because essentially what you're doing is painting a face on top of your face. So you want to be really specific about it when you are working, okay, so that you're not all over the place. All right, we're going to leave it at there for right now, and when we come back the next time, we'll talk about how we can play with lighting and make things a little brighter or darker if you need to help out your lighting in your photo.